Nitro with the nice flow. Y'all acting like y'all don't know. Stop acting like y'all don't know.
Joe Campbell.
Who the future? We the future. Who the future? Us. Who the future? We the future. Who the future? Us. Causing chaos in the back of the bus. Get your hands up. We gon' show you how we buzz. Yeah. The future.
The future is now on a suddenly not so casual Send It Saturday. It is CFB Knowledge for College Week 9. It is Saturday, October 29th, 2022. The Shark and the Gun. Guns picks, shades on, fan hat on. What's going on this beautiful Saturday morning, my brother?
We are here. Beautiful Saturday morning. A schedule change, but a recommended schedule change for us because we are better in the morning. We are giving you the hottest picks, the sharpest show. I was up 4 units last week, and I'm going to carry that over into this week in college. We won the ECU pick last night. We're going to continue winning. I'm ready. Let's get to it. This is going to be a great slate on this beautiful Week 9 Saturday.
Beautiful outdoor environment here in Pennsylvania. We're going upstate, and we're going indoors to the Carrier Dome. Guns picks, a fan, a jersey, a hat, and a buy environment for the road team. An official play. Talk to me.
Listen, I'm a fan of Notre Dame. I normally don't bet Notre Dame. But as a sharp, this is a good spot to be taking Notre Dame. Let me tell you why. Notre Dame's offense has had a struggle on the offensive side of the ball. They have performed well in the last 4 weeks, so absolutely improvement on the offensive element. Shout out Tommy Reese for doing that, putting up 450 yards of total offense, actually hitting the run game a little bit harder as well, 5 yards per carry, and allowed only 3 sacks in their last 4 games. So the offensive line is clicking, the run game is clicking, and Drew Pine, the quarterback, is clicking as well. Now look at Cuse here. They've had a huge drop-off in the offensive production after putting up 400-plus yards on Louisville and UConn, taking out the FCS opponent in that run. Wagner, they put up 306 yards of total offense to Purdue, 352 yards of offense against UVA, all bad defenses, by the way, and 389 against NC State, 291 last game versus Clemson. Now, you got to take Cuse solid in the dome, but the level of their competition is weak. Now, you got Louisville, Purdue, UVA, Wagner, and NC State with no Devin Leary, by the way. Also, look at this strength of schedule so far this season. Cuse is 85th toughest schedule, where Notre Dame has faced the 10th toughest schedule in the country in that run. And statistically, ND is better. Also, look at ND. I think they've won 23 straight against ACC opponents, and they are 5-0 against the spread in the last 5 games versus ACC opponents. So the key to this game is the defense. See that Purdue put up 485 yards of offense. Clemson put up 450 yards of offense. That's their toughest opponent. So I see ND coming into the Dome. They have played on the turf before. You saw them play in Las Vegas and see how they outperformed their opponent there in BYU. I think this is going to happen again. Syracuse is going to get upset today. They're a ranked opponent. They don't deserve to be ranked, in my opinion. Give me the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and you are going to hear the fight song all day, baby. Touchdown, 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 touchdown. That's what we're going to be seeing today with Notre Dame. Give me Notre Dame +3 as the play.
Speaking of upsets, we're going to my top play, 3:30 p.m. We're going to FBC Mortgage Stadium, Orlando, Florida. UCF Knights on the money line, -110, 2-unit play. A lot going on here. I saw this midweek, and it just made my eyes light up. I saw a Cincinnati team coming in here, and I saw a Cincinnati team that is on a 6-game winning streak. And I just started to look at Cincinnati, and I said, what is going on with this team? How have they won 6 in a row? So I went down the schedule. Kennesaw State, FCS. Miami, Ohio, MAC. Indiana University, Big Ten, bottom feeder. Tulsa, down year. USF, down year, not great. Almost lost outright 2 weeks ago, 28-24. Last week on the road at SMU, 29-27. Tried to give it back late. Almost lost the game. This team is trending towards a loss. And you find a UCF team here coming home off an absolute obliteration at ECU last week. The same ECU team Guns Picks had correctly to beat BYU on the road last night. A snapshot to the quality of ECU. So UCF comes back home in an environment where we can correlate directly back to a revenge game on Wednesday, October 5th against SMU. SMU in conference had hammered them last year. We got a great line. SMU was -7 last year, +3 this year. Big line gap. This is even better. Cincinnati last year hammered UCF 56-21 on a -21.5 at home. They come back as a slight dog. They are trending towards a loss. UCF, stand the hell up in your home stadium today, 3:30 p.m., 2-unit special per the Shark. Guns picks, alignment, I believe. UCF on the money line at 107. Talk to me.
Man, Shark did hit some key points, but I'm going to talk about the statistical analytics of comparing these teams. Let's look at the net yards comparison. Cincy is +119 net yard average this season, +117 net yard average on the road. UCF +155 net yard average for the season, +152 net yard average at home in the bounce house. Now let's look how they play against their conference competition. Cincinnati +83 net yard average versus conference opponents, +5-point differential. UCF +140 net yard average versus conference opponents, +19-point differential. Big gap here, folks. And Shark brought up the revenge spot. They did lose to them 56-21 as 21.5-point dogs. Huge swing in the line, in my opinion. Home team is 6-1 against the spread in the last 7 meetings. Cincinnati is 0-4-1 in the last 5 road games, and UCF is 4-0 against the spread after an ATS loss. So you have a UCF team that statistically is better than Cincinnati. They're playing on a revenge game. The bounce house is going to be rocking, and you're going to be hearing this fight song all day long while they run up the field. High-speed offense, scoring points left and right, left and right, left and right. And you're going to see UCF rocking in the bounce house today. Give me UCF money line as the play.
Going back to noon, we're going to Morgantown, West Virginia, in a beautiful, beautiful environment. I wish I was there, if I'm being perfectly honest. Hanging out with Pac-Man Jones, a little bounce, as you said, in the step. And I think some bounce in the step coming today. West Virginia at home, +7.5, catching an undefeated TCU team who has been flirting with disaster, who has gotten advantageous environments, back doors all year. Guns picks. Is this team going to lose outright today on the road at West Virginia?
That is a no, because West Virginia is a home team, not a road team. So they played on the road last week against Texas Tech, and they got crushed 48-10, minus 312 net yards. That is absolute pure domination on the Texas Tech side. Now, TCU has looked great on both sides of the ball. However, if you actually break down those games, Oklahoma starting quarterback hurt early in the game and left. Kansas, they were down 10-3 they were up 10-3 at halftime, and the QB got hurt and left the game, and that was a deciding factor in that one. Oklahoma State, they trailed 24-13 at halftime. Starting quarterback was hurt, did try to muster up and still play in the game, but he had a shoulder injury. So that kind of predicated into the OT win at TCU. Did not cover that game, by the way. Oklahoma State did. Now, Kansas State, they trailed 28-17 in that game, and they not only hurt the starting quarterback in Adrian Martinez, they actually hurt the backup as well. So the backup did play the rest of the game, but he was absolutely unproductive altogether, and I think it was more predicated on the injury. Now, West Virginia performs much better at home, like I said. They put up 501 yards of total offense versus Kansas, 500 total yards versus Baylor, which UVA puts up 129 yards over their opponent's defensive average. So they actually hold their opponents much better on the defensive side of the ball. And West Virginia is 8-1 against the spread in the last 9 versus TCU. And West Virginia has won 5 out of the last 6 straight up versus TCU. I not only think that this is a great line, taking them at 7.5. I think West Virginia wins this game outright. And TCU, the cookie's going to crumble today in West Virginia. So take me home, country road, to a place where I belong. West Virginia is the play, +7.5, 2-unit play.
Yeah, I like it. I said, do you think they're going to win today? And you said no. And then you said you think they're going to win today. So which is it?
I meant yes. Correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
correction.
Just checking for the 75 people we have watching on a Suddenly Not So Casual Send It Saturday, 10:20 a.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Eastern. My second play. We're going Conference USA. We're going the home team, Western Kentucky -10. A lot going on here in situational environments for both teams. Uncannily, you find a North Texas Mean Green team here who is not very good on the road, coming in here 4-0 ATS last 4 and 2-0 ATS last 2 in conference, dating back to a cover at Memphis, 44-34 on a plus 12.5 on Saturday, September 24th. Last week, a tight loss and a cover at UTSA, 31-27. We have lost a couple wagers this year with UTSA. UTSA is just awful defensively, and I think they're poorly coached, if I'm being honest. The way they played against Texas Southern, a couple other games when they got hammered at Texas in the second half, where Texas went a letdown spot off the Alabama game prior, UTSA just gives it up. And they're just not a team you can back expecting any sort of margin. They're going to give it away. They're undisciplined. Their defense is terrible. That's why North Texas covered the game last week. You come back to Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky is 2-0 ATS in conference. An impressive cover last week against a very good UAB team who, who does not function particularly well on the road. Go back to Saturday, September 24th, 73-0 against Florida International. And I think this brings us to the next point. The total in this game is 70 points. The game last week finished at 20-17. When Western Kentucky plays great home football in conference, they're going to pace you. They're going to run. They're going to score a ton of points. And North Texas will give up points. The last time I personally faded North Texas on the road, I did it correctly in week 4 on September 17th at UNLV. And not coincidentally, they did give up 58 points in that game and get beat by 31, 58-27. Western Kentucky, 2-0 ATS at home, should score, should pace. And North Texas, 4-0 ATS last 4. Highly unsustainable stuff. Western Kentucky, -10, 1 unit. 3:30 p.m. ACC football, Guns picks. Lamar Jackson in the NFL, Louisville football, home locker room today, official.
They may not have Lamar Jackson, but they do have a guy named Cunningham. And I see 43 people watching us on YouTube. While you're at it, please hit this like button with a thumbs up, and please subscribe to the Dad Bods YouTube channel and help us out, help us grow, and help everybody win some money. So let's talk about Louisville for a second here. Back-to-back, they're coming off back-to-back conference wins, 24-10 last week versus Pitt. +3 turnover ratio was a deciding factor in that game. Now, Wake Forest is coming in hot as well. They've won 3 straight back-to-back home wins over inferior opponents. We're talking Army and BC. Lackluster at best. Now, let's look at the schedule for a second. Who's faced the toughest schedule? Louisville has faced a much tougher schedule than Wake Forest. 15th toughest so far this season, while Wake Forest has only faced the 77th toughest. So take that into account when looking at Louisville. And Louisville in a revenge spot, lost to Wake Forest on the road last year, 37-34 as 7-point dogs. They did cover, but they did not win the game. Louisville has covered the last 3 meetings, 2-1 straight up in those spots. And also, you got to look at when Wake Forest is ranked and Louisville is not ranked, it's better for Louisville. 2 out of those 3 spots that I just mentioned, Wake Forest was ranked and Louisville was not. The dog is 8-0 against the spread in the last 8 meetings as well, and you have Louisville sitting here as a dog. So with all that being said, you got to be taking Louisville here. I think it's +3 right now. I did get it at +3.5. That's my play. +3.5, I would take it. +3, and maybe even a little sprinkle on the money line. Louisville should win this one outright. Give me Louisville as a 2-unit play.
2-unit play, I love it. 1-unit play for me. We're going SEC football. We're going road team, 4 p.m. Missouri Tigers +3.5, 1 unit. If you notice when I'm going down this card, I'm fading Cincinnati, who's too hot, trending downward. I'm fading North Texas, who's too hot. You know who's too hot in the SEC? Spencer Rattler and the South Carolina Gamecocks. This team comes in here on a 4-game winning streak. Listen to who they've beat. The notorious Charlotte team that Guns knows very well, fading them last week with an FIU outright win at plus 14.5. USC beating them? No thanks. Next game, South Carolina State. In-state rivalry? I don't think so. FCS team, 50-10. Saturday, October 8th at Kentucky. Kentucky ranked down this year noticeably, trending downward. Last week, Saturday, October 22nd, Jimbo Fisher on the road with the boys. Another loss for Jimbo in the look-ahead game, 30-24, a down year for A&M. South Carolina is 5-2 on the campaign. It has those 4 wins. It's on a 4-game winning streak, super hot. Only other win was in week 1 against Georgia State. We've lost some wagers with Georgia State this year. You know how bad that team is. That team is just like UTSA. They hate holding a lead. They give it right back all the time. And that was a 21-point win for the Gamecocks. You go to the other side of this game. Missouri comes in here 2-0 on the road in the SEC as a road underdog. They come in here off a lackluster non-cover last week at home against Vanderbilt, 17-14 as a minus 21 favorite. This is where they function well. South Carolina is fool's gold. I think Missouri wins the game today. I think they could win this game by 7 to 10 points. We're on it at 1 unit. Guns picks, alignment, I believe.
Pure alignment on this one. South Carolina is the most fraudulent ranked team in FBS football currently. They are 5-2 straight up this season, but their wins are unimpressive. Shark didn't mention Georgia State, Charlotte, South Carolina State, Texas A&M, all at home, and they beat Kentucky on the road without QB Will Levis. And you know what Will Levis is to the Kentucky Wildcats. Missouri, on the other hand, 3-4 straight up, but while their wins are not impressive, La Tech, Abilene Christian, Vandy, they've played tougher competition. They've actually played them competitive. On the road against Auburn, they lost by 3. UGA, a very tough opponent and a national championship contender. They played them at home, lost by 4. Excuse me. Florida on the road, lost by 7. These are conference opponents they battled in all these spots. Now, in terms of the differential versus conference competition, South Carolina, minus 10-point differential, minus 84 net yard average. Missouri, minus 2-point differential with a 0 net yard average. So statistically speaking, Missouri is the better team. Now, Missouri has won the last 3 matchups straight up versus South Carolina, and South Carolina is 1-7-1 against the spread after an ATS win. So you're getting the plus points with Missouri here. They're playing on the road. They've played every single SEC opponent tough, and I think they're gonna win this one outright, and you get them at plus 4. I might as well just take the plus 4 as the gift. Give me Missouri plus 4, 2-unit special.
7 p.m. Road Locker Room, University of Alabama, Birmingham at Florida Atlantic. I'm taking 1 unit at minus 4.5. Again, a situational buy low. UAB this year is 0-3 on the road straight up and 0-3 ATS. Go back to week 2, I believe it was, Saturday, September 10th at Liberty, a 21-14 loss. Saturday, October 1st at Rice, a 28-24 loss. And last week, Friday night at Western Kentucky, a 20-17 loss. The theme of these games is they are not holding onto the ball on the road. In all three of those games, they lost the turnover battle with significance. 4 turnovers against Liberty, 4 turnovers against Rice. Last week, 2. That's 10-3, I believe, the gap. Just the type of stuff. You're not going to be winning football, even when you dominate the game, which is what they did at Rice. They outgained them by almost 200 yards and somehow lost the game outright by 4 points. Last week, tight game, did not cover by 1.5 points. And now you come back into a functionality spot in the conference. If you go back to last year, Rice did beat our boys UAB outright last year. So this seems to be a continuum. Liberty obviously not in the conference. Liberty got them last year as well. So it seems like UAB plays the same style of game year 1 to year 2. And you go back to last year, UAB did hammer FAU at home 31-14 on a 3.5. So line functionality in conference, You win at home by margin on a 3.5, and you come up on the road in the revenge game for the opponent to 4.5, suggesting immense strength. And again, this idea that UAB plays the same game year one and year two versus these opponent types. And you go to the other side of this game and you find Florida Atlantic in a unique environment at home against the spread. Florida Atlantic is 3-0 straight up as a favorite. They're 2-1 ATS as a favorite. We had them 2 weeks ago. They didn't cover against Rice, 17-14 out of 3.5. It was a hook loss. That game, they did actually dominate the game. They got down 14 points early. Rice had a 75, 80-yard touchdown pass in the first quarter, and the whole rest of the game, Florida Atlantic dominated. Florida Atlantic, as a home favorite, does dominate the game. Go back to the first game. It was week 0 against Charlotte. Hammer time, 43-13. FCS week 3, Southeast Louisiana, 42-9. Key point here, the only time they were an underdog at home this year, it was against our boys UCF. And it was on Saturday, September 17th. UCF did hammer them on a minus 7.5, 40-14. This is an environmental weighting shift. You want to fade FAU at home when they are an underdog. Strong line, UAB. Let's get off the road schneid today, and let's do it with authority. 7 p.m., Sun Belt Conference, Coastal Carolina on the road at Marshall. Marshall, first year in the conference. Coastal Carolina showcasing yet another very above-average campaign. Guns picks, unofficial.
I'm liking Coastal Carolina here, and let me tell you why. Coastal Carolina is coming off a bye after a home loss, a brutal home loss at that against ODU, 49-21. Marshall is off an upset, straight-up win versus our darling, the JMU Dukes, as 10-point road dogs. They actually dominated the net yards, plus 247. And they sacked them 7 times, plus 2 turnover ratio in that regard. Now, Coastal Carolina has been strong on the road this season. They're putting up 487 yards of total offense on average, holding their opponents to 367 yards of total offense on the defensive side, plus 120 net yards and a plus 12 point differential. Now you have Coastal Carolina. What do they want to do? They want to pass the ball. They have a great quarterback you're probably going to be seeing on Sundays pretty soon in Grayson McCall. They average 283 yards per game passing with him, 70.6 completion rate, 18 touchdowns, 1 INT. Those are really nasty stats for Grayson McCall. Now, Marshall's defense has been beaten versus the pass. They gave up 300 yards passing to Bowling Green, 321 yards passing to Troy. So they are susceptible of giving up the yards in the passing game. Now, Marshall's offense is not very good, especially passing. They only average 185 yards passing, and they have given up 25 sacks so far this season for a 12.8% sack rate. So they are susceptible of getting sacked in the backfield. And you want to go deep into the stats? My God, check this one out. Marshall 6-20 against the spread in their last 26 home games, while Coastal Carolina is 19-9 in their last 28 road games. So this is a perfect spot on a bounce back for Coastal Carolina. I love Grayson McCall. I love this team offensively, and I think they're going to come out with a beautiful win here. But I'm going to take the plus 2.5 to be safe here. So give me Coastal Carolina plus 2.5, 2-unit special.
Staying with the gun here, 8 p.m. ACC football, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, Kenan Stadium, Pittsburgh on the road. Off a road loss, a blowout loss last week at Louisville. Catching North Carolina where you want to catch them, off back-to-back road wins in conference at the University of Miami down there in not South Beach, North Miami, the Hard Rock Stadium, and of course Duke, the in-state rivalry game last week. Definitely a letdown spot for UNC here. Guns picks, an official.
You know, the people always say, eat shit, Pitt. No, not this time. We're going to be taking Pitt. Let me tell you why. Pitt is coming off a road loss, like Shark just said, 24-10 versus Louisville, plus 14 net yards, but they had a -3 turnover ratio in that game. Now, UNC has won 3 in a row, including the 2 back-to-back road wins, but the narrowest of margins in those wins. Miami and Duke, 2 bottom feeders in the ACC, and they only won by a 3-point margin. Now UNC, great offense, but terrible defense. They give up 500-plus yards of total offense to their opponents in 4 out of their 7 games this season, and their opponents average 107 more yards of total offense against their season average. versus this UNC defense. So the offenses perform much better versus this stagnant and lackluster defense that the Tar Heels bring to the table. Now, Pitt's defense is not bad considering the competition they played. They held their opponents to 53 yards below their opponent's offensive season average, and they held Tennessee, and we know how good the Vols are this year, to 182 yards below their season average. This is how good this Pitt defense is. And also Louisville, they held them 124 yards below their season average in the loss. So the one team that actually put up over 300 yards passing versus them is only one, and that is the Tennessee Vols. And you know how good Tennessee is. And I don't think UNC has an offense as potent as Tennessee. Now, UNC does average 327 yards passing with Drake May, but that will be the key to the game, in my opinion. If you can stop the passing game, which Pitt, I assume, will, and you see the statistics that show comparisons to the Tennessee Vols, they can do that, and they can do it very well, and they can play and compete with this UNC team on the road. We've seen how they perform versus Notre Dame at home. It's not a spot that UNC is typically strong at playing here, and Pitt has won the last two contests straight up. They won last year 30-23 as 6.5-point dogs. They're sitting here at +3, and I'm going to be taking them at +3 here. So give me the Pitt Panthers +3 as the play.
Final play, 10:30 p.m. Pac-12 football. UCLA first half -9.5. Great late night spot here. A lot going on both sides of this game. You find UCLA coming home here off an absolute obliteration loss last week at Oregon, a guns pick special, and an absolute blowout in the first half, 31-13. Their worst environment of the entire year by a mile. So you get a default bounce back and you come home, but you also go back to the previous 2 weeks. In conference at home, this team is 2-0 ATS in the first half versus far more representative opponents than Stanford. Friday, September 30th, against ranked number 15 Washington, big-time first half, blowout winner. Come back against Utah, the class of the conference, potentially right alongside USC, another cover. And you go to the other side of this game, you find Stanford here in an absolute letdown spot. Stanford is very down this year, and Stanford is coming in here off back-to-back outright wins at Notre Dame out of conference, and last week in conference against a lackluster Arizona State team. And you go back to a sequence of games that seems to be correlating directly to where we are now. Go back to week 2. Stanford came out flat in their home stadium against USC and tried to backdoor the game. Then they went on the road to Washington and got absolutely hammered the following week. Last week, in conference against Arizona State, that was a non-cover. Stanford was laying 3 points for that game, and they came out ultra flat early. So this is the same exact thing, the same exact game flow they played against USC before going on the road in conference at a ranked opponent. You catch UCLA, they're going to be pissed off. They're going to be jacked up. Stanford is going to get hammered in the first half here. 1 unit official, -9.5. That's the show for today. CFB Knowledge for College, Week 9, Saturday, as the alarm goes off. They know we're in here and we're ready to dominate. Saturday, October 29, 2022, the Shark and the Gun. 5 top plays, 9 words of lifestyle. Ride the wave or get out of the water. UCF -10, 2 units. Western Kentucky -10, Mizzou on the road at South Carolina +3.5, UAB 7 p.m. -4.5, and 10:30 p.m. UCLA, as just discussed, first half -9.5. Guns picks at noon, 2 hours from now, roughly. Notre Dame, the buy hat, the buy jersey, the buy fandom engaged in the Carrier Dome, +3, +1.5 now. 12 noon, Morgantown +7.5 versus undefeated TCU. 3:30 p.m. alignment play, UCF money line. 3:30 p.m. Louisville Cardinals coming back here +3.5. 4 p.m. another alignment, Missouri +4. 7 p.m. Sunbelt road dog, Coastal Carolina. Grayson McCall on the road +3, and Pitt +3 at North Carolina in a letdown spot. We appreciate you guys waking up early with us. The interactions are amazing. It builds the channel, and we build the channel for you guys. You interact with us. It is amazing, amazing, powerful stuff. Hell of a Saturday, week 9, a beautiful, beautiful backdrop. I'm looking at out the window here. It's absolutely gorgeous. Guns Picks, thanks for waking up early. Thanks for dominating with me. Close them out with some words, and let's fucking go.
I want to thank people in the chat that have been chatting up with us. Rocco's Pizzeria, Pat Kappa, I see you. Josh Hankins, Dabby Cab joining us as always, and Rob D. But I see 45, 50 of you guys joined us live today on YouTube. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the Dad Bods YouTube channel so you can catch all the content that comes in here. And we will see you tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. for the Circa Millions NFL show, where we give you the hottest picks on the Sunday slate. But thanks for joining us this morning. It's been beautiful. It's been great. Let's cash some tickets today. And as always, let's keep dancing.